Nice to see you. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. It's great. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Up and down. Fine.
Are you still in
Um,
Chicago? I can't even remember when I last spoke to you, but I just remember speaking to you and you were in Chicago.
no, in Detroit
Oh,
now.
Detroit.
Yeah, back with my parents living home. So, yeah. I. Well, you were bringing up tidying the cage. I
Oh,
had
yeah.
questions about that.
Sorry?
What you meant by tidying the cage?
So what I mean by tidying the cage is that when you feel like you're someone, what often happens, so when you feel like you're separate, what happens if people listen to this message, sometimes if they haven't tidied the cage, what they do is they then take this message into the cage and they try to apply non-duality to help their life as a separate person. And I don't think that's a very wise idea to take on board the ideas of non-duality. To be talking to your girlfriend and to be annoyed with her and then repeating to yourself, but there is nobody, there is no one, there's no one to be angry with. This is going to be a disaster. It's much better to understand dynamics, to understand relationships, to be able to feel your feelings rather than to be cut into your head. And all of these things I call tidying the cage. This is a much better way to live. What I often find in non-duality, but not all the time, there's also people that really hear this, but they just cut off and they live in their head, and non-duality just gets taken into being another intellectual concept.
Right.
And it becomes dead. They feel flat or dead or depressed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I was more depressed, I think I was using it as an intellectual concept
Yeah.
as well to kind of reinforce that depression, to
Yeah.
feel like,
Yeah.
oh, what is the point? Use it, like you were saying, intellectually to
Yeah.
say, oh, there is nothing, so why do anything? And
Yeah. And this is not a good, because beingness is looking through this human instrument, and then if this human instrument, it already has a tendency towards depression and then takes non-duality on, as it will just become really lethargic, it will not want to do anything, it will have no goals, it will become depressed. And so the best thing that you can do while listening to non-duality is also tidy up the cage and understand your heritage, so understand what you've been passed on by your parents biologically, and then the way that they've conditioned you as well, and understand, if you take on the victim story, which most people do, and if you feel victimized by life, and see how by feeling victim to life, it stops you ever really doing anything with life, all these different dynamics. And in relationship, you always want to convince the other that they're bad and that you're good and that you're the victim and all these different things. And understanding this, and it's not about getting enlightened, it's just that when you become separate, and when you're born into this world of separation and this world of always about obtaining, you begin to pick up very neurotic behaviors, because your life is based on a lie. Your life is based on, I'm separate and I need to get things in order to not be separate, and I will do anything. I will kill my neighbor to get these things in order to not feel separate, to not feel separation, and to feel complete. And just exploring that can really relax that sense of being separate and seeking. It won't awaken you. That is grace in a way. But it can make you more relaxed, balanced and happy person, and less neurotic. And less acting out these weird behaviours that you get when you've been taught that you're separate and that it's your job to do things. But while exploring the cage, also exploring non-duality and seeing that that's not you. The one that's exploring the cage and tidying the cage isn't you. It's a play happening. But it appears in that play as if the character has free will and has the choice to explore the cage and to sit on the computer and to get up from the computer. Ultimately it hasn't, but that's the way the game's played. And that person will never free itself, because your nature, that which experiences and knows the character, is free already. And at some point that energy will shift over from being the person to being that boundlessness. And if you've already tidied the cage enough, when that switches over, then it will be even There will be no separation, but also the habits and the behaviors of that person will be more balanced as well. But that's not you. You aren't that person tidy in the cage. Who you truly are is that stillness, which knows all, but knows nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, alright. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I feel like like control is like a problem for me, like what to do, or like controlling life, or controlling what happens to me, or
Yeah.
or where I steer the direction of my life. I feel like I was, for a long time, you're kind of mentioning that, brought up to achieve and institutionalized in achievement and getting good grades and becoming someone, you know, and dreaming of someone for so long, like my whole life dreaming of this version of myself that I would one day get to. And even learning about enlightenment and spiritual progress, then that becoming an ideal. And like that going on top of worldly achievement, you know, that being like an even higher achievement, obviously, like most people can achieve, you know, financial success or worldly success, but they can't achieve that, so that's an even higher good. And for a long time thinking that that was something kind of like some super state, some state of superiority,
that you have over other people,
right?
And that makes you different, but it just isn't like that. Life, all of that is suffering. The thing that's the best thing that I can recommend is just going back to the sensations in the body. But this is going to be a very difficult period because you're currently living in a society which is totally based on separation and getting. So what it means is, if there is an exploration of this subject, then you're more than likely not going to get what like everybody else does. So there's got to be an acceptance of not being socially acceptable, like not being what everyone else dreamed you to be and wants you to be, because that's how they measure success. So there is kind of a stepping out of this, but none of it, the idea of who you should be by them or yourself, will bring you anything. It will just bring you more suffering. Your freedom is this instant, and what needs to happen and is an exploration of the actual sensations that are happening in the body, and the discomfort and the contractions that are happening in the body, rather than the stories that are being told intellectually. But while doing this, it's hard to be making lots of money, unless you're very lucky and you're a stockbroker and you just press buttons on the internet twice a day or something, or because it's so strong, that mechanism of being separate, and then the separation, the feelings that come, and then the stories on top of this isn't enough, I don't like this, or I'm not enough, or I'm better than, or how dare they do this to me, or why is life doing this to me. These stories are such a strong push. There's so much weight and energy in them. And so there's got to be a movement into what's actually happening rather than what we think is happening. And an exploration of what's happening in the senses rather than just the thinking.
Like that world in the brain that we... The world with all the labels that kind of...
Screw with everything.
Yeah, and kind of... It only exists, like, with two people. Like, when you talk to someone else. Like, when you're by yourself, there's no one to, like, for that to, like... attach itself to.
It's a really great reflection, imagining the whole world dying and you being the only human left. Like, who would you be?
Yeah, you couldn't have a title or a name. There'd be no one for that to stick to.
Yeah, and what would become important?
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting little glimpses of, like, nothing existing, because, like, the things that I think exist only exist between two people and between the society.
It's such an illusion the way it's built up. Another great thing to be able to see this is if you travel a lot, or if you go into different cultures. You can seeing how in each culture there is particular ways of being and particular ways of seeing each other.
Yeah.
And then none of them are reality, they're just different ways. And each one thinks that it's the best one, each one thinks that's the right one. Even in non-duality.
Yeah, where some things are correct in some cultures and then completely wrong in other cultures, and like offensive or not offensive, and you know, what is the polite thing to do versus impolite, and that's the reality in each place. And because I was born in South America, and then I came to the States. I lived most of my life in America. I don't know. I've always felt kind of a little separation from it.
Yeah. Whereabouts in South America?
Peru.
Oh, nice. I've never been there, but it sounds, from what I've seen and read about it, seems beautiful.
Yeah, I went one time. I went back one time when I was younger. I haven't been back since. I think it's very diverse. I think there's a lot of different. I think there's like lots of places that kind of suck, and lots of places that are like, you know, picturesque. And there's like the coast, and maybe like the Amazon. There's like rich places, but I remember there's also places that just look like the worst parts of Detroit, and just awful and poor, and it's not very nice at all. But I think it's probably kind of like a lot of other places, I think, where it's just always that, I don't know, stratification of different lives, you know?
Yeah.
And there's, but,
do you still keep in contact with Carl? Kyle.
Yeah, here and there. It's been a while recently, but yeah.
I see him every so often on YouTube with millions of views. Not YouTube, Facebook with millions of views. Like somebody, I don't know if I'm friends with him. I've got lots of friends, but I see like a video of his.
Yeah,
that somebody's posted.
He's very popular. He's gaining a big following.
Yeah.
He had one for a long time in comedy, and now with this motivational / inspirational thing that he's doing, it's very, people love it.
Yeah.
Really big fans of it, and
he speaks well. He's a good speaker.
It's been he's got a gift for that, you know. It's definitely his thing, and I met up with him for comedy, like, because growing up he was on Comedy Central. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like Comedy Channel, and like I was like, that's the biggest thing you could be, and I never realized that's what I wanted to do for a long time, and then getting to work with him was incredible, and he was like in his transition between being a comedian and what he does now, speaking, and I don't know, it got to the point where I wasn't able to work with him anymore, and I wanted to just, I don't know, I kind of let things fall away because I was in a very work mode, and it was creating a lot of stress for me, so it, like, I don't know, it took a couple of years of just not doing anything, and then I started doing comedy more, and I always have this back and forth, like, doing comedy, I feel like is going to lead me down a path of more thinking things are real, or like...
Not necessarily, it depends on where the passion comes from. Like, you know, doing comedy could be a really creative, but it depends on whether you're doing it from the intellect or from the gut.
Right.
But it might be a combination of two. It might be a bit intellectual, as in you want to be something from it. But there might also be that, you know, that gut feeling that just loves the creative process, that really wants to express it. Yeah,
and the place where jokes come from, just like seeing a thing that's funny or redundant. And that's almost what I love about comedy, is that it's not like it's like it's about redundancies and, like, you know how like
the contradictions.
Contradictions, and the way that we build up this universe that you're like, there's a big gap in it.
Yeah.
Like, look how silly this is, and it almost feels so much like some of this stuff because it's like trying to poke holes in everything. And
I think so too. I think there can be such a beautiful expression, and not even necessarily talking about non-duality like we do, but just in the expression of the art and the contradictions of life and the silliness and the craziness of everything that we as humans think and believe. And also when you're expressing it to people, there can be an intimacy that happens. Like I also write, and it's not about destination, it's not about ending the script. What I love is that creative energy. Oh, hang on. What I love is, I thought she was just going to puke everywhere, but like, what I love is that creative energy, that inspiration. It's not an intellectual thing, it comes from the body, and it's not about completing it. It just wants to come out, and it wants to get expressed. And it's not coming from you, it's not about you becoming successful from it. It's just expressing. And you go through so many different emotions while expressing it, and while it comes out. But it's not an intellectual thing. It's not about me getting somewhere. I remember when I was younger and when I was identified and when I wrote, I wrote from a very young age. When I used to write, I had two agendas. My agenda was expressing a message, so I wanted to convey something to the audience. A morality. Normally you have to do that in storytelling, but I, as Lisa, wanted to express it. I wanted to have a point. I wanted to have an understanding of something. So it was about me wanting to express to someone. So that was my one thing. And then the other thing was I wanted recognition for the plays. I wanted to be successful from them. I wanted money from them. I wanted to look a certain way from them. I wanted to be appreciated in a certain way. And now when I write, these things don't even come into it. I don't care. Normally when you write, there is a flip, so there isn't a morality, but there is a flip from one thing to another, like comedy. So you start off somewhere and then it flips into something else. That's how you write drama. But it's nothing to do with me. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it says or how it says it. There's an expression or a story that wants to be told and to come out. And I also don't care if I am ever recognized for it as well. Like, it just doesn't even come up in the creative process. Maybe in trying to get it produced, there's a caring, like, not me, but there's a push to try and get it produced or to try and get it made. But in the actual creative process, it's just a spontaneity. So there could be the same with the comedy. And it's such a, like, these bodies, these instruments are creative because the reason that we're so successful as humans is because we have this creative mind that can imagine a car, that can imagine a bicycle, that can imagine a computer, that can imagine a story, that can imagine a joke, and all of these things are so important. It's important that we laugh, it's important that we understand the contradictions of life, that we first of all have the chemical of laughing, but also we don't take everything so seriously. We see the lightness of it, or the stupidity of it, or the darkness of it, depending on the comedy, but the contradiction of it. But that's what we are with these creating machines. Whereas Khaleesi, she isn't. I say to her, look at this beautiful script, or look at the sunshine, or look at this scenery, and she's like, she's got no appreciation of it. Whereas as humans, we have this creative force running through us, which is really beautiful. Well, Khaleesi does too, but she digs a hole and she sits in the hole. She plays and she eats things, but it's not like the human. We have this imagination to create.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate it, too. So I'm not, like, I love watching comedy. I really have appreciation for other people's making that thing, and I don't know, I think back to when I was even a kid, and I had no idea that being a comedian was anything you could do or anything like that, and just watching specials and just loved the art of it and being able to and it's not something anything else can do besides people,
Yeah. Yeah, I would be very impressed if someone made Khaleesi laugh.
Yeah.
My moron friend.
I've been spending a lot of time with my cat. A I like the cats.
Have you ever seen something on YouTube called Simon's Cat?
No.
Oh, you should look it up. I find this really funny. But there's one called Catmandu,
Okay.
and it's just a very simple cartoon, but I find them really funny. But this might be my rubbish humour.
Mm.
It's called Catmandu, and it's
Okay.
called Simon's Cat.
Alright. Yeah, I'll write that down.
If you like cats, I think you'll find it funny.
Yeah. Oh. So they're just... Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well, thanks for calling.
Oh, with pleasure. Nice to speak with you again.
You too, Lisa.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.